I've got great news for you, but I've got terrible news for you. And they're both the same thing. We know who's going to win the national championship this upcoming year. That's great news if you want to save yourself the time or maybe win some money betting on it at FanDuel. It's terrible news if you don't like spoilers, though, because this is as big as it gets in the spoiler category when it comes to college football. It is May 1st. We're not going to crown a national champ until like January 19th of 2026? It's hard to even see that far on the horizon, but yet we already know who's going to win it. So here are a couple of things you need to know. How did we come about this information, first and foremost? Well, here's what you need to know. You can't argue with science. And so if this were merely my opinion, I'd probably keep it to myself. And if it were just my opinion, you shouldn't care about it. But we have science on our side here. Did you know that 5 of the last 6 national champions had the most first-round draft picks in the subsequent draft? Ohio State, for instance, just won the national championship this past January, and they had first-round picks galore and draft picks galore this last cycle. 7 of the last 8 national champs had the most players taken in the subsequent draft period. And there you go. Ohio State just won it. Ohio State had the most draft picks. Like I said, science. Can't argue with it. Colin wouldn't put the graphic up if you could. You can't argue with this. So this is science. Well, you might think to yourself, all right, so if I'm going to take it to mean that the upcoming national champ is going to have the most players drafted in the draft, it's all well and good. But here's the problem. The draft is like 11 and a half months away, isn't it? And the answer is yes, but we don't have to wait. You know what we have at our disposal, courtesy of CBS or Fox Sports or ESPN or The Athletic or PFF? Mock drafts, which, as we all know, are as settled as science can possibly get. And so what we did, just to give you an idea of where our heads were at this time last year, is we went out there in the mock draft community and we aggregated it all. Now, these are mock drafts. It's not what ended up happening in the draft, but we used mock drafts because that's all we had at our disposal at the time. Now, the mock draft sort of community this time last year indicated that Michigan would have the most first-rounders. The mock drafts averaged Michigan having 3.75 first-round draft picks. Here's what actually happened. Not quite. Will Johnson got hurt. Michigan kind of would have still maybe led this thing. It's just that they didn't have a quarterback on last year's team. But if you'll notice, Ohio State was right there at 2. That's your national champ. You got Georgia, a playoff team. You got Texas, a playoff team. So the mock draft community was sort of kind of on point. They threw the dart, and the dart hit the board. They just didn't hit the bullseye. We assume they've learned, right? They've learned their lesson, and so we are going to assume that these mock drafts are gospel now. And so we're going to take our internal formulas here, and we're going to provide it a little more clarity via the mock drafts. And I have the fortunate/unfortunate task of informing you that we've arrived at a conclusion, like 9 or 8 months earlier, something like that. The upcoming national champion will be the Clemson Tigers. Can you believe that? Good for Dabo Swinney. There will be no little old Clemson. There will be no doubting. There will be no hating. There will be no looking down on Clemson. None of that. If they're planning on bottling that up at any point this year, I want to get out ahead of it and tell you no. Clemson is supposed to win the national championship this upcoming year. Whomst amongst us knew, right? So the science is not going to fail us here. According to the mock draft community, Clemson, we aggregated all of them. Jordan Reed over at ESPN, a late addition. I did not appreciate him waiting until today to put his out. And he listens to the show, so you know to do better next year. But with that addition, Clemson 3.2 on average, first rounders for the upcoming NFL draft. So this is it, guys. This is it. I assume they're going to win the ACC. They've got pretty good odds. They're the favorite to win the ACC. They're not one of the top 4 favorites to win the national championship right now in the odds market at FanDuel. In fact, they're not 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th. Actually, they're tied with Bama for the 7th best odds. Now, to show you how much I believe in the scientific method of mock drafting as it relates to projecting the draft, which will then reveal the future national champ, there should be an acronym for that, I think, I have already wagered on this. I don't want to tell you how much. That would be unethical, of course, but I have already wagered on this, and it's almost unfair. You know, I almost feel like maybe FanDuel should take that down off the board and recalibrate the odds now that this breaking news has been provided. But you know what I noticed there? Hey, quick timeout. check and see if you're subscribed to the channel. If you're not, make sure you do. It's free. It doesn't obligate you or sign you up for anything. It just helps us keep the channel free. All right, back to the show. Noticed Texas is up there again. I noticed Penn State's up there. Yeah, Oregon's up there. Ohio State's up there. You could look at that one of two ways. You could look at that as, ooh, look at the SEC, well represented again. Yeah, but if you also looked at the mock draft, if you looked at the little aggregation we did, Texas is the only SEC team in the top 5. Now, there were a few there, 6, 7, 8, 9. But here's what I noticed. Did you notice who wasn't there? Clemson's there, Texas, Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State, Bama, LSU, Miami. Where in the world is Georgia? Well, the answer is they're not there because they just sent a ton of kids to the draft. Does that mean for certain that they won't have big-time first-round caliber talent emerge on this team this year? No, it doesn't. It just means it's not very clear right now. But it's funny when you think about Georgia last year, it's really weird actually because they didn't run the ball very well. They didn't play as good a defense as they normally do. By all accounts, it felt like a down year. They won the SEC anyway, had a first-round bye, then they went and lost to Notre Dame. But anyway, if it feels like a down year, history has come to teach you at a place like Georgia, you can expect a bounce back. A down year, relatively speaking, for them just means a big-time year the following year. Well, if that happens, then they're going to have to disprove science to do it. Okay? And what kind of academic institution is ready to fly in the face of science around here? So USC's not there either. So it's not Georgia as the lone major brand, although Georgia's been a mainstay in this conversation. USC wasn't there. All the other usual suspects would be there. You're not going to have a Big 12 in there. You're not going to have a G5 in there. Of course, those teams will make the playoff, but we're talking about winning it all. So the Clemson Tigers are going to win the national championship this year. I'm just pausing because I'm ready to hear the arguments. Again, I don't have to defend this because this is not my opinion. This is science. So if it comes to pass, this will be an iconic segment. And if it doesn't come to pass, as I've told you many times, and I'll tell you once more, I just want the credit. I don't want the blame. Who wants blame? Blame is lame. And it's the reason they rhyme. So it's on the science. It's not on me. There's a difference between science and what we understand about it. So maybe the mock draft community got it wrong, but not me. All I'm asking you, if you remember anything about the show, is don't blame me.